Is your medicine cabinet filled with unused and unneeded medications? You might be tempted to flush them down the toilet or toss them in the trash. Or you might just leave them in there, collecting dust for who knows how long. Stop what you're doing. Were you just about to flush those down the toilet? Improper medicine disposal leads to environmental harm and drug misuse. Drugs can end up in water supplies through runoffs from dumps, flushing, or human waste. Septic systems are not often designed to remove the chemicals in most prescription drugs from water. Therefore, these chemicals end up back in your drinking water or in marine ecosystems. Drugs like steroids, hormones, antidepressants, and antibiotics can have a huge effect on sea life. Researchers at Florida Atlantic University found bacteria on dolphins that exhibit strong antibiotic resistance as a result of antibiotics being flushed into the ocean. This makes dolphins more susceptible to bacterial infection. According to the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council in Ontario, male fish who were exposed to small amounts of estrogen in the water effectively underwent a sex change, which led to the population of the fish in the lake fall drastically. The American Association for the Advancement of Science found that in Sweden, fish exposed to anti-anxiety medication became more antisocial and bold, which is pretty risky behavior when you're a fish. Tossing your medication in the trash or flushing it down the toilet can have harmful effects on the environment, but leaving it in your cabinet can have tragic consequences closer to home. Accidental overdoses are more common than most people think. According to the Center of Disease Control, the CDC, more than 60,000 children under the age of 5 accidentally take prescription drugs. 95% of accidental overdoses are children who gain access to a medicine cabinet. With some drugs, the fatal dose for a child is a single pill, but not all drug use is accidental. When leftover prescription drugs are not disposed of, it makes them more accessible to potential drug abuse. A study by the National Center for Biotechnology Information found that while only 41% of prescribed opioids were used for post-surgery pain, over 50% of patients plan to keep the drugs for future pain. The U.S. National Institute on Drug Abuse found that 11.9 million people in the U.S. were reported for the misuse of opioids. That is 5% of the population. 1.9 million people reported addiction of opioids. With these numbers, leaving unused medication in the cabinets is not a safe option, as you can unintentionally add to the opioid epidemic. So you don't want to toss your drugs in the trash, and you don't want to flush them, and you don't want to leave them in the cabinet. So what are you supposed to do? Don't worry, drug disposal comes with no cost and little inconvenience. The best thing, and the first thing you should do, is to search for a drug take-back location in your area. These locations are easily found on the internet. Common locations include pharmacies such as Walgreens, hospitals, and police stations. Some communities have annual drug take-back events for National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day, which usually falls on April 25th. Now, If no take-back locations are accessible, check the prescription's label for specific disposal instructions. You can also check the FDA flush list. The FDA has included the environmental impact that these drugs are negligible compared to the risk of improper drug use. Flushable medications include, but are not limited to, fentanyl, morphine, and oxycodone. These drugs are highly addictive and should not be left in cabinets. If the medication is not on the FDA flush list, follow these steps. First, mix the pills or liquid with an unpeeling substance like dirt or used coffee grounds. Second, seal the mixture in a closed container, for example, a plastic Ziploc bag. Then, put leftover medication into the plastic bag. Mix the medication and the substance in the bag so there's no visibility of the medication. Once that is done, the medication can be safely disposed in the trash at home. This method will prevent chemical runoff into our water or animals consuming the drugs. And here's a final few tips for safe drug disposal. Always black out your personal information on prescription bottles before disposal. This will help prevent identity or prescription drug fraud. Remember, tossing or flushing prescription medication can hurt the environment, and not disposing of unused medication can have harmful and even fatal consequences at home. To properly dispose of drugs, always look for a location drug take-back location first. This is the best option. If there's not one close, check the FDA checklist for medications that should be flushed. If it is not on the list, mix the medication with an undesired substance and put it in a sealed container and then in the trash. Always black out your personal information, and don't buy medication that you don't need. And don't stock up on medication. Only get what you need in order to limit consumption. Proper drug disposal is responsible and easy. Go home and clean out your medicine cabinets today.